Well, hello, Liberty listeners. Welcome to another episode of Liberty Road. Today, you guys get to hang out with Gretchen Leonard. And the reason I'm so excited for you to hear from this woman is she is a newly minted author. If you can see this, if you're watching on YouTube and you can see this, she just wrote this book. I had the honor, really the privilege of getting an early copy and was devouring it and just taking notes after notes after notes. And partly because I think what Gretchen is about to unleash and what we're going to talk about today is so vital for us in this stage of life. And I would say even earlier, and she and I have talked about that, so we'll unpack that more with her, but also is so aligned with what we're doing at Liberty Road in terms of really helping you to consider your possibilities and lean into that purpose. So without any more chatting, welcome, Gretchen, to the show. It's so nice to have you.
Netta, it is so lovely to be with you. My only regret is that we're not together,
I know.
snuggled in on a sofa, but
I
we did both
know.
wear striped shirts,
We
so that's
did. We
fun. We
did.
both
We
did.
did. I know. You did such a beautiful job of having us snuggled on a sofa for your podcast. I'm
It
sorry I
was
couldn't return the favor.
next time. No, not at all. And thank you. Speaking of honor, it is such an honor to be with you.
Mm,
You are a master storyteller and really a visionary in the work that you're doing at Liberty Road. So thank you
thank you.
for having me.
Thank you. Such a kind way to start the podcast. Thank you. So let's get into, for the sake of our audience, just getting a little context, like why did you want to put this book out into the world? What did you believe was missing when you said, hey, let's talk about our second prime? So you kind of have this phrase that's a very Gretchen phrase. Let's talk about this second prime, and let's talk about um, all the various things that we need to study within it to better understand the opportunities we have in it.
Oh, well, it started like most things that really shape you. It started with something unexpected and scary.
Mm,
And so when I was quite young, I was trying to have a family. My husband and I were trying to get pregnant, have kids. Um, I ended up having a really scary medical issue where I had been driving down the road and lost the vision in one eye. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm having a stroke. And that led to going to multitudes of neurologists and trying to sort out, what had happened and why did I just stop seeing what is going on here? And I ended up seeing a neurotologist, and because I was also racked with vertigo. So I lost my vision, and then I was vertiginous, and I couldn't drive, wash my hair, I'd fall over. Everything was spinning.
oh my goodness.
And this was the moment when I understood time in a different way. And so at first, obviously, there's the fear of having a disease. And that what I was told by the physician was when a woman in the prime of her life comes in with the symptoms you have, it's one of two things. He was very certain it's either MS or lupus. And I was alone when he said
Mm,
that. And I just was my ears started to buzz. I literally went like out of body, like my body slid down, my solar plexus clenched, and everything became dry. And not only did I hold on to MS or lupus because, and then for the listeners, it was before the internet. So
mm,
I
mm.
wasn't able to Google everything. And I was like, MS or lupus, like, what is this? Um, but prime of her life was what stuck me. It stuck with me. And that is the beginning of what is now this book. So it's over 20 years in the thinking and incubating and making, and then three and a half years, maybe a little more than that, in the writing and research and editing. But that so I'm so grateful for that physician saying that because like it was like a woodpecker. I was like, time of her life. Wow, that was like a line drawn in the sand.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. So then after prime of life, what is there? And it really struck me as a very um, final and negative. It was not, it didn't come out as like, oh, and then your next several years would be great. Like that was not how it was
Mm.
built. It was either prime of life or not as promising. And so that was what got me thinking. And then I'm like relentlessly curious. So I was thinking about, yeah, like how do I feel about that? And then what I realized when I uncovered it, I didn't want to get old.
Mm.
I felt like that would be not great. I wouldn't be the things that I was at the time. And if I didn't know what I would be, then it wouldn't be good. And I just started to like feel the feelings of like, huh, well, after prime of life, I
What is
don't really
there?
have a plan.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
And and so that was the beginning of thinking in this way. And then having a different relationship with time. So that's a little long-winded, but it came from the physician's specific words that I couldn't let go of. And it made me, hmm, wow, I need to think on that. Because right now, aging is shameful
Yeah.
because he already said it was shameful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Did it make you angry or did it make you pause?
It made me pause, and then
Yeah.
I became so I go through and I want to thank a friend of mine for saying this because I'm raising an 11-year-old son in my mid 50s. So I just want to thank my friend Kenna for saying, get curious before you get furious.
Ah,
So, and that has helped. Uh, but that is what I did. I was like, why? Why is this bothering me so much? It really became like inquisitive within myself about, you know, why was I so triggered by his statement? I think that statement could have landed on 1,000 other people, and their focus would have been quite different based on their relationship with either age or disease or fear or possibility. I think that
yeah.
could have landed 1,000 different ways, and maybe in all of them except for me, it wouldn't have mattered at all.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I am so grateful. And I come back to what I believe is important. And in Stoicism, which I happen to follow, is the obstacle is the way. And
Mm.
if it weren't for him saying this to me, I wouldn't be with you right now talking about something that I am most proud of, and that is writing this book. So thank you to that, very sort of like callous in a way comment, or sloppy. I think he didn't realize what he was saying. It
Sure.
is,
Sure.
but it was also of the time. That's how people spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that comment was made recently while you were already writing your book, but it was on one of the networks. I think it was CNN, and it was made, and somebody ended up getting fired. So,
Yeah.
times have changed, to be sure. But yeah, nobody wants to think they've peaked. Nobody wants to think that
Right.
that's it. I guess the rest is downhill. Whatever, in whatever
Right.
capacity, whether it's our physical bodies aging, our mental aptitude, our ability to um, have adventure or be prosperous, or whatever the thing is. You don't want to believe that you've peaked. And this brings me to, I think, a really key point in the book is that the way you address things is just filled with opportunity, but it's not baseless. It's not like toxic positivity, right? Like just speaking into the wind. All of the opportunity that you talk about all the possibility, I should say, that you talk about in the book is science backed. It's one of the fascinating parts of the book is that I wouldn't call it self-help because it has all of these foundational layers of research and again science-backed research, and that doesn't make it not self-help, but it's just so much more. Like it's so much more than um Gretchen speaking kind things into the universe so that we can feel better about aging, right? That's not what it is. That's not what it is. So let's get into it a little bit more. I love the tagline. I'm going to hold it up again. And I love that you've said this before. It was on the book. But does aging suck or do we suck at aging? So what say you, Gretchen, in all your research?
Yes, maybe a little of both, but the agency is with us. So yes, there are real bummers about aging, and I think it's important to mourn through life. You know, like I'm already sort of mourning that my son is the longest goodbye. You know, I see him pulling away, and his and I have to remind myself that's his job, and yet. You know, I've got to mourn that, but that is what he is supposed to do. We are supposed to age, but are we doing it well? And I would say with as many exclamation points and as many all cap letters, no, we are not doing it well. We could do better. We could do better on a societal level. I feel like that's critical. We need to think as a society. And this individualism is driving me bananas. We are not able to survive in an optimal way without each other. End of story. That's like really critical. And part of that aging is that we must support not only young people, but we must support our full life's process and honor it in a beautiful way. It is, I think, another thing that triggered me is that about why I wanted to write the book. Any ism drives me nuts.
Mm.
You know, racism, uh, sexism, the difference between the haves and have-nots. I mean, equality really drives. It's one of my deep whys is that I feel that everyone should be treated with dignity. And when I see a society intentionally throwing people away through maybe not even knowing they're doing it, but by sidelining older people, um, I find it to be unjust. And so the reason for writing the book is that I felt shame about aging right when I was in my prime, and I noticed it. I took note of that. And then I thought, well, gosh, I don't want to hate it because it's going to happen to me if I'm lucky. And then we
Yeah.
talk about longevity, but if there's no dignity and there's no purpose and there's no vibrancy, who wants to live forever? That seems like sort of cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Let's have quality of life versus quantity of life. And then let's do it together. Does longevity and quality of life kind of go together? So when it comes to answering the question and the book, I tried to sort of like close the loop like a masterful comedian does at the beginning with some, ridiculous tagline and then realizing that you're coming
Yeah.
back at the end
Yeah.
is that it isn't the answer that we're looking for. It is the question. So the lesson in the book is on the front. Does it suck or are we good at it? What I'm asking you to ask yourself, are you asking good questions? It teaches you from the beginning that the question isn't does aging suck, but how are you doing it? Have some agency within, some
Mm-hmm.
some intention about the way you go about living your future, setting things up for your future self. So hopefully that makes sense. But it's a lot wrapped up in one. And then when I thought about writing this book, I thought there's no way I can even organize, like with my ADHD brain, organize all of these thoughts together. But I've had some good help, so hopefully it
No,
makes sense.
it actually is not. It doesn't. I mean, the help that you had did their job. I'll say that because it
Good,
doesn't read like
good,
that at
good.
all. I want to go back to something you said. It's something I've considered myself. We talk about within this idea of aging and ageism, and it's one of the isms that somehow it's okay. Like for some reason,
Yeah,
everybody's like, oh, let's, we've got other things, other fish to fry, I guess. And so we're getting lost in it, right? Whether it's talking about people's careers, people's need. I mean, if we're living longer, we need to work longer, right? It's just period.
yeah. I mean,
Period.
the math doesn't math any other
Yeah,
way.
it doesn't. Yeah. So
It
so
doesn't.
then the question that I have, or even with regard to beauty and aging and all the anti-aging products that are being created, and now they're slapping on pro-aging labels. And I'm like, has anything changed, or are you just pandering to us in a new way? So when we think about society, when we think about the systems that we're saying need to change, I believe that we first need to change. Like, we individually have to take it up upon ourselves, and then the systems will shift. It's rarely the case that the system shifts first. It's usually the case that people come together in small numbers, begin to advocate. People like yourselves, thought leaders, put things out in the universe and say, hey, should we be thinking about
Hmm.
this? And then
Hmm.
people coalesce around those ideas, around your second prime, around Liberty Road, around what's happening in the menopause space. Um, and all of a sudden now money and attention and systems begin to coalesce around that, or develop, or
Hmm.
scaffold what's next. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree
Okay.
100% that systems don't change. Systems are only changed from within or from without, right? So it comes down to us and our agency, autonomy, and optimism. And there's a chapter on that. And I call it, that's just this magical, powerful triad. But let's just take take the beauty industry for an example. Something really simple, and it's mentioned in the book, and I have a hard time doing it, and it's because we've been trained. So when I'll test you and see if you have a hard time doing it. But that's just self-talk. Like the best place to start with changing society is obviously to change yourself. So when you greet yourself in the mirror, what's the first thing you do? Is the first thought negative? Is it, oh, here we go. Gosh darn it. I need to have a laser. I need, and I think that we as women fall into the solving. I'm going to solve for that. Oh, I'm going to fix that. Perhaps it's time to take care of this. It is about self-talk, and then it's about how you speak about other people. And so
Mm,
if every woman, I'm just going to speak to the lady space. If every woman, first of all, saw herself with kind and loving eyes like her friends see her in the morning and said, hello, beauty, and smiled, that would be a wonderful thing. The second thing is when she spoke about other people and even celebrities, oof, she's looking old. Oh, gosh, look how old they look. Oh, she looks really good for her age. She looks really good. Full stop. Why are we qualifying it? It's not necessary, and it's perpetuating stereotypical issues that then show you there's a first prime and there's a second or a third prime, or that
yeah.
there is all of a sudden less value because she survived life. Like, that just doesn't make sense. And I think we need to go back to nature and remind ourselves that yes, we have clothes on and all this, but we are of the ecosystem.
Hmm.
And to think of ourselves in this in with eyes of beauty and eyes of an artist, and think, wow, someone has done great things, and they've raised families, they've started companies, they've taught children, they've done these amazing things, and their body is yet a vessel. This is just a vessel for energy and light, and so if we see ourselves as a vessel, then and that we're just trying to bring our light forward, I think that's a healthier way of doing it. But the language and the way you see yourself, I think, are really critical. And once you start doing that, you're an example to somebody else, because when you call your friends on it, they're like, yeah, it's kind of right. Like, you know, let's not bash women here. Let's not bash people their age. And men get the silver fox, and ladies get what?
Hmm.
Oh, she looks good
Hmm.
for her age.
Hmm.
It needs to go. If we could change that, I think it would go a long way. And it's very small, but it's not easy
Yeah.
because it's so ingrained.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been talking about the layers of the book, and one of the things that makes it so comprehensive is that you're not just speaking to our kind of intellectual capacity. There are layers in the book of you're talking about how our mind impacts our physical body, how our physical body impacts our mind, how our I don't know if you use the word kind of spirit or heart, but how
Mhm.
those things impact us. Um, why was it important for you to address those differing parts of kind of who we are and what make us up?
Oh my gosh, thank you for that question. Well, I would say the reason that it's important for me is to see ourselves holistically. Um, I have the privilege of being raised by hippies. So when I was a very young person, I was taught how to meditate. Now, I don't know that I did it well. I think I just sat there and closed my eyes and thought, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'll sit here.
Yeah.
This is like crisscross applesauce. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll try. Um, but I was raised by meditators, and the idea that we're energy and that our energy is, and we have all of these different layers of our body, and our energy really affects everything. Then later in my training as a dietitian, understanding the gut health, the gut mind axis, and understanding the vagus nerve and how everything is so interconnected, but we treat ourselves in parts. And so it was my attempt to bring us together as wholeness, which is hilarious because it's broken up into sections. I like to say, let's connect these, sections together. But those layers are to show that we're essentially a loop, right? We're a loop of information. We're an emotional and spiritual loop. We are, an electrical loop. We have a lot of electricity that goes through our body. There's the cardiovascular. There's the nervous system loop. There's the thought loop. There's the food loop, what you put in your body, the way you think, the way you move. Um, just mindfulness in and of itself is the most powerful thing to calm your nervous system. Your nervous system's love language is breath. Bring it together. Well, that right there, just breathing deeply gets your cardiovascular system in line and creates coherence. And that means that your cells are working in a more optimal level. Now, the reason I brought all of that in isn't to complicate things, but to say that all those little things like self-talk, like deep breathing, mindful eating, being with friends, although make small changes, they all add up.
I think you just gave us a little bit of these life hacks, but could you just just because I want the audience to know that what you're saying, these are in fact life hacks in this way of being mindful of that loop, of those various loops. So what are three things that you would say are hacks for us that give us longevity benefits?
Well, I think the most important thing is be with your friends.
Yeah.
Number one, that and it's harder in your second prime in a way because maybe meeting new friends is harder or you've been with the same people. So I think really cultivating your friendship circle, I think is frankly, when it comes to longevity, and even not only cardiovascular health, it does the heart good, but also cognitive health. It gets your mind going, I believe, would be cultivating friendships. So, number one, even when you don't want to, say yes, go, get out, especially post pandemic. Many of us became hermits. I know I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it has made me a little weird and feral. And so now I have to go out and meet people and think, oh, well, like I used to be so good at socializing and now I'm not as good at it. And so stretching those social muscles. This is one of my favorite things. Small talk with strangers is so critical. Go order a coffee, say hello. Oh, and if you admire something, tell someone. give out your little gifts every day, give them out. So I think small talk with strangers.
I just have to say this. You're reminding me of the Progressive commercial where the guy is like, this is what you're not supposed to do. Like when
Here,
he says
yeah,
you're becoming
yeah,
your parents and there are people in
yes,
the
yeah,
elevator and he's like, well, hello there. And he's like, you don't know them. They're strangers. And
yes,
my kids are like, oh my gosh, mom, that's you constantly. Like, you
yeah,
don't know those people. Stop talking to them about
yeah.
their life.
You know
So
what?
you just affirmed or confirmed that it's okay. In fact, it's good for us.
It is not only okay that Progressive car commercial is hilarious and I
Yeah.
love it, but
Yeah.
in fact, what he should be saying for all of our longevity is talk to strangers,
Yeah.
be your parents, you know, touch base with people because we need it. And I'll give you a little science behind it. So empathy, our ability to feel sympathy for others or sense what they may be going through, is part of our neurology, and it's these little things called mirror neurons. And if we connect our mirror neurons more often with people, we will get sparks of joy. And at the end of the book, I talk about glimmers. And so what I would say is I want people to make small talk in elevators, in fact, really get good at those little bursts of joy. If you aren't able to be around your friends, then just make it small talk. So I would say spend time with friends and small talk. And then, because I love glimmers so much, look for glimmers. And glimmers are real things that are, in fact, the opposite of triggers.
Hmm.
And so I described this glimmer where I become, I became so entrenched in it that it then made me start researching these little creatures. But I had been standing outside of a dry cleaner waiting for Lance, my husband, to come out, and it was every typical like Southern California little shop. It was like stucco, all craggly, and I was staring at these like bed of invitations that were wilting in the sun, and I was just staring at it, and I was like, "Ooh, look at that! Look at those ants!" And I became so engrossed with what the ants were doing, and that I noticed that their little antennae touched each other, and that, I mean, the line was long, so I had a lot of
Yeah.
time to to
Yeah.
like really get into this ant colony. And then I was like, oh yes, ant colonies. Like nobody gives us gifts anymore. Maybe I should get an ant colony. Like I went through this whole ant phase. But what I realized is that I was in awe of nature. It was the littlest thing. It was ants, things that we try to exterminate, of course. And I'm sure that the property manager would have been like, let's get rid of those ants. But they brought me joy that day. And it wasn't anything other than being in awe of what nature does on its own. And I think that that's part of, does aging suck or do we suck at aging? Let's go with nature here.
Hmm.
Let's do the best we can. If nature says when you spend time with your friends, your immune system increases, laughter is the best medicine. Those little things are things for a reason because there is science behind it, right? Um, Instead of getting your dopamine hit from your phone, try to get it from a human being because those hits are great, right? We want to feel good about that, but we want to crave it in the right way. So I would say look for the glimmers, get the dopamine from your friends, and that oxytocin when you're around someone, and then small talk. So I would say
I
be
love
your
it.
parent.
I love it. I love that. Thank you for those. Those are great hacks that we can absolutely incorporate, um, and easily incorporate. But what I love too is that we have a sense of like, I mean, we want to be doing those things out of the goodness of our heart, but also that they have real benefits. So when we are
Mhm.
in that kind of hermiting stage, right, whether it's residual post-pandemic habits, or just we just feel busy and consumed by life, it's a reminder that no, actually, this is what life is made up of, is these
Mhm.
moments where we are engaging and interacting. One quick question on the friends thing. Why is it relationships with friends that seem to be key here versus relationship with a partner or relationship with children or siblings or parents? Why is it always friends, or does that matter?
That's something I would have to really do
Yeah.
research on. Like if they have has somebody differentiated, friends. So I jumped straight to friends. That must be
We hear
where
it constantly. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I would have to I couldn't speak to it. Sorry, you can say friends and family. And I
yeah.
think family absolutely has our core and much of, many people have amazing family units, but others
Yeah.
do not. And
Yeah.
I think what makes friends so medicinal and so valuable for each other is that it is a willing exchange.
Yeah. It's
There isn't the
they're
same type
chosen.
of,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they're chosen, and then we have all different types. So then, based on what fingerprint that friendship has versus another, maybe one's active, one's conversational, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the stories about just being in awe. I think one of the things that I'd like to point out when we talk about the science of aging, I do discuss what the brain is capable of throughout the book, right? So we say, oh, my age, I can't learn anything new. In fact, your crystallizing memories and you're organizing things in a different way. You have more critical thought and you're able to be more of a strategist. But the ability to notice things of awe, like something as silly as those little ants having their conversation, is something that a younger brain isn't as attuned to. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what we get to look forward to, is that we
Mm-hmm.
can be in more awe. We can find glimmers in a way that is more deepened, just based on the maturity of the brain, which is really a wonderful gift.
Yeah. I think I've heard Arthur Brooks refer to it as like the wisdom brain. Like we go into this different season. One of the there's so much about the book that I love, but I think one of my favorite parts of the book is how much you lean into purpose. Again, I think I love it because it's aligned with my own curiosities and what I'm wanting to bring to the table with Liberty, all things that we do through Liberty. Why was it imperative? I'm not going to say even important, because I know you, and I know this was a must. Why did you want to spend time on this subject throughout various chapters? It's not like a single chapter is dedicated to purpose. It's it shows up throughout. Why was that
Mhm.
um, subject so important to you, and how did it sort of reveal um, this idea of purpose in its purest form? No, I'm not talking about job. I'm not talking about career. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about that.
Mhm. So, that's so many questions. How
I
much
know.
time do we have, Netta?
I
I would like
know.
to,
I
but
know.
that's like a
It's
3 hour conversation.
unfair.
It is unfair, but I'll do my best. Maybe we'll do something else. We can talk about purpose. So
Yes.
in the book, I describe a moment, sort of like the second prime moment, where I realized that I want to do more than I'm doing. I had a good job and all the things, but I just was not. It was sort of like eating a whole bunch, but never being full,
Mm,
never being satiated, and just feeling, is this really it? Is this okay? If I'm married and I have a corporate job and I'm paying my bills and I can buy fun shoes, and it was very Sex in the City time back then,
yeah.
and like I should be really happy. And what I noticed was that I still had an emptiness, and I went searching. And did I just, you know, land on the thing? Absolutely not. So I went searching to figure out what purpose felt like in my body. And what I will say is lack of purpose feels a certain way in your body, and then being in purpose feels a different way. And then now we know the data suggests that in fact my immune system is different when I'm in purpose, that my cognitive powers, my ability to think, feel, and do things differently when I'm in purpose change and improve statistically. That my cardiovascular system is better, my mitochondria is better, everything hums at a different level. You could say, oh, my vibe is better. I mean, all these different measurements when someone is aligned. has alignment and coherence of what they are meant to do in this world, they are at their most healthy.
Mm-hmm.
All cells are at their most healthy, and the data is there. So when I started looking into purpose for, well, how do you find your purpose? But then what does it do biologically? Like I mean, I had so many questions. So for us to live a life that feels whole, we must give our gifts away. So on the macro level, if you were to pull way out, my belief is what is the meaning of life? And our meaning of life is to love each other. Full stop. That's it. What are humans here to do? To love each other, not love yourself. That's important too, but that is not your number one thing. Your number one thing is to love each other. Now, what does that look like in practical terms? In practical terms, right now, you're spreading love through Liberty Road and being a trusted source and an advocate for people in their middle third and saying, this is the there's something more for you, and I am your shepherd, I'm your guide, and I am discovering and also testing for you along the way. That is how you are loving people. And when I say love, I'm talking about love through action.
Sure.
Not just simply saying I love you, which
Sure.
which is important too, right? Verbal. But so being, if you realize or accept the idea that we are here to, number one, love each other, then your how do you express your love? Well, that has to come through what you stand for. Uh, so here we go. So to find your purpose, you have to decide what really matters to you. What would you die for? What would you sacrifice for? At the highest level, would you say, you know what? If 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 I could impact this, I would feel full. That right there is the beginning of finding your purpose. And purpose isn't a thing, it's a way of being, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
way of being in purpose. And that's when I say your cells come alive biologically, epigenetically, they come alive when you're in purpose. So we know you have less disease, you have less chance of Alzheimer's, I mean, all the data is just saying, okay, find your purpose, find your why, what matters. For me, equality was always at the top of the list. I want equality for everybody. So how can I show that? Well, I had my scare. I realized that, wow, I don't want a line drawn in the sand that, pre-prime, you're great, and then downhill ever since. So I sort of found it through self-discovery. So it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of self-inquiry, a lot of trying things out. And I think people think, well, purpose is going to land on you.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose is a journey of exploration of like, oh, nope, I didn't care for that. And I think you told me a story about your purpose when you're like, wait a second, I could do this great thing in Africa, but that's not what I want to do,
Yeah.
even though it landed in your lap. And most people would say, well, why didn't you go that way? And it takes a significant amount of self-discipline to say, yes, that is a great opportunity, but it's not aligned with
Yeah.
what I stand for.
Yeah.
And therefore I must come back into alignment, and then have that autonomy and,
Yeah.
an optimism about what I'm doing.
I want to say two things because there's so much peaking in my brain right now that I keep listening on behalf of the audience and saying, oh my gosh, there's some nuggets here. One, I want to say, I wish I was as disciplined with the Africa thing. I thought for many years that was it. It was having done it, having gone, having experienced it, having taken women with me to do these collaborative kind of workshops with, different artisans in Africa. It was that it didn't resonate anymore. Like
Hmm.
I did it and it was amazing and it was wonderful, but I didn't feel satiated. You gave me great language here. I was eating, but I wasn't feeling
Hmm.
satiated. And I was like, what? This was supposed to be the culmination
Hmm.
of all of this work that I had done, up until I was in my 40s. And it was the like, oh, this is not it. This is a
Hmm.
piece of it along the way. But something that you said that is really connecting right now, and I want our audience to hear it, and I want to hear your feedback. So I have a daughter who just graduated college, who's in her first job. And a lot of, if she's hearing Gretchen talk about purpose and then hearing her mom and dad say, this may not be your purpose, right? But what you're there to do is learn how to manage, how to negotiate for yourself, how to communicate, how, this isn't about the work product as much as it is about your learning. What I love about what you're saying right now is it kind of means that this sort of purpose is for us at this time, that it
For
couldn't
sure.
have been, whereas so much when we talk about vocation little v or purpose or, whatever, um, we begin the conversation by saying, you didn't miss anything. Like, this is now the time. Or we say, okay, maybe things didn't quite go your way, or things weren't quite as aligned, or you didn't have a chance to pursue that purpose up until now. And people come at it from a place of desperation, like, okay, I've got to get it right now because time's running out. The way
Mm,
you've phrased it is, no, this is meant for this time. This is the
mhm,
first time we can see purpose in that sort of way, because our brains couldn't understand it, just like the
mm-mm.
ants story, that our youthful self couldn't appreciate those things, that it required our wisdom brain to sort of take over, and that that there's this hopeful sense of like, wait, what Gretchen's telling us is made for now. It's just not a
Right,
like, this is your last chance to hang on and find the purpose, train before it leaves the station.
right,
Um,
right.
are we getting that right? Am I getting that right?
I just got goosebumps
Mm.
because you're 100% getting it right. And I'm so glad that you picked up on that. There isn't, now, I would like to say, I don't want a blanket statement, anything.
Yeah,
There may be a young person, in their early 20s that
of course.
knows what their purpose is. I would say that's the exception, not the rule,
Yeah,
right? And that I learned this language through, I believe it was Chip Connolly. I have the honor of having him on my
yeah,
podcast. But um, 0 to 40 is ego and acquisition. And that is what you are meant to do. If
yeah.
you are meant to want to slay dragons, you're meant to want to strive in a way that's almost out of body. Like that is what you are meant to do when you're young. You're just you're learning all these things, and you're trying them on. And but there is this moment in at the beginning of your second prime that what used to fill you, right, no longer does.
Hmm.
And that is that shift in what I truly believe it is it's your soul, it's your why coming into focus, because you don't know your why until you experience things that drive it.
Yeah,
Like I didn't come out of my, third grade saying equality, that's what I care about.
yeah,
I didn't.
yeah.
It was learned over time, and my soul connected with it through experiences and learnings and seeing equality not be there for people and how it made me feel. So we're that acquisition phase is before you're starting to crystallize differently cognitively, is where you're learning what you do truly stand for, that you can then say, well, even if I'm really good at bringing people together and I've created this, what many people would say is a purposeful endeavor to take artisans in Africa and,
Mm.
and bring women out of poverty. And I mean, it was the most, heroic and cool and just badass thing to do. You realize that, that was actually just a lesson. It was a course. It was a course in what
Hmm.
will then feed what is next. And so our whole life about like thinking about it instead of and we have sectioned it, but I think what is really what we're getting at is age neutrality, but actually experience and wisdom that we can just keep going with, and that we can say everyone is valuable and everything and there's nothing you've learned in vain, and that you would then can deploy it when you realize what you stand for. And to be in purpose versus doing purposeful work, like the work you were doing in Africa, very purposeful, very,
Yeah. Good
but
distinction. Yeah.
it, it didn't fill you fully. And we also know that that can change.
Mm-hmm.
This type of work could be purpose filled for 7 to 10 years. And you
Yeah.
could say, I'm ready for something else.
Yeah.
And being okay and following it to stay in alignment so that we can have our epigenetics at the highest level and have our, the most I'll say what epigenetics are so that way people know what they are. So epi means above, like, epidermis, like above the dermis,
Mm-hmm.
but epigenetics is the study and the thinking of how to turn genes on and off. And the way we can turn genes on and off is through where we can without drugs or intervention is through thought, is through food, and is through behavior and through, sort of like thinking and mindfulness. And so being with friends improves your epigenetics through, sort of like the expression of neurochemicals. So all of these, things that we do have a chemical cascade. And being in purpose is one of the biggest. And the data is incredibly strong. Purpose wards off what we are almost fearful of, which is Alzheimer's, sort of
Yeah.
cognitive decline. So we kind of talked in circles, but
No, I'm glad you gave us that definition too, because I should have asked you, knowing that not everybody knows what it is, and I love your
yeah.
examples of things or your definitions of things because you have a real way with making them make sense to the lay person. So I appreciate that. I have to ask you before, because we could go on and on, but I have to ask you before I let you go. How has writing your second prime, how has being a published author, how has that liberated Gretchen the woman?
Wow. I I could tear up. Thank you for asking. Well, it was so much harder than I thought it would be. So I started like it's been 3 years and 8 months in the I guess thought about it for 20 years and then it took me 3 years and 8 months to write it and get it out there. And it's so scary to put yourself out there because
Yeah,
you're thinking, who am I to write this book? And uh, why would, why do I think I can change the way we feel about aging? And I thought, well, it's a literary hairball. I have to cough up. I got to get it out of my body. Like, I just honestly felt that even if I wrote it for myself and nobody read it, that I would feel good about it. And so it really was, but it is for all of us. When I think about, I want women to realize they are at their most powerful. They're, and men, but they
yeah,
have their platform.
yeah.
But I wanted women, especially women as they feared aging, if they had any reticence about it or thought, oof, that they were at their they're the most powerful, the most strong. I mean, when you research women, you realize that women are extraordinary. I I really am in awe of what women can do. And I guess I want to be a reminder. And I want to say you are so beautiful and strong, and the world needs you. The world needs you to show up and give your gifts and love each other. And so what that's done for me is, well, I got the hairball out, and so that's exciting.
It is exciting.
And then it's exciting and it's really fun. And I get to every day be in purpose. Right now, this is my purpose to disrupt how we feel about aging, to remind people that they have a lot of agency and control. And aging sucks if you don't actively participate in it.
Yeah.
So
If you
it
let it.
feels fun
Aging
too.
sucks if you
Yeah,
let it. I mean,
if you
and I
let it.
think
Yeah.
that's what's so great about what you're reframing for us, giving us a new lens, literally. And how funny, because there's glasses on the
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you for, first of all, I have to tell you, I wrote down long goodbye, curious before furious, the problem is the path, eating a bunch but not being satiated. Like your little quippy sayings are so like they're getting lodged in, and they're meaning a lot. So it's so fun to hear
Thank
you.
you.
Um, you're a wordsmith. And you put that to good use. I also wanted to say something when you said, "Who am I to?" Who are you not to? And I want our audience to hear that. You said at the front, we're here to love one another. And the way we can do that actively is by sharing our gifts with one another. So I'm so glad you did that. I'm so glad you coughed up that literary hairball.
And every time I was giving it out, I think when I gave it to you, I was like, just read with gentle eyes. Because, for the longest time, I would give one to someone I knew really well that would be like, kind of sweet and be like,
Yeah.
oh. And I said, and I gave people, this is truth. If you don't like it, just know I tried really hard.
Aw. No, it's everybody
So,
needs to um read it for their sake. Like for their own sake, they need to read this book because it's again, it's not just a mind shift, but there's so much foundation for what you're saying, and I love that. I love that it's like, no, there's reason here why we should be doing this. This has been researched, and there's science to back it up. This is not just a feel good, and there's room for feel goods too. Um, but thank you, Gretchen. Thanks for writing the book. Thanks for spending this time with us. I so appreciate you.
no, I appreciate you and I'm honored. Thank you so much, Netta.
Absolutely. And Liberty listeners, thank you guys for hanging out with me and with Gretchen. We'll have in the show notes how you can get her book. And I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to have some other opportunities to do some fun things with Gretchen, because I think the work she's doing is really important in helping us figure out how to unlock what we need to age well. Thank you all. Goodbye for now.